Very, very warm welcome to all the participants today. Very good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining our session today on the ABCs of nutritional label reading. We've all gone shopping, we've all gone and bought products from different supermarkets, hypermarkets, and we all see a nutrition label at the back of this particular product, and we always wondered what is inside this product and how can it help us, what is the protein content, what is the fat content, and all that. But after speaking to Soumya, I realized that my knowledge is about 5 to 10%, and there is a lot to discover when it comes to nutrition label reading. So I thought, why don't we do a session and also invite participants and make sure that everybody has this knowledge, which can help us get on a path to holistic well-being. So here we are today. We are doing a session on nutritional label reading. We have a wonderful speaker with us who's a nutritionist herself, Soumya. She runs her own clinic, Nourished by Soumya in Hyderabad. I'll start with a brief introduction of Soumya's profile, and then I'll hand over the floor. Soumya is an Australian board certified dietitian and the founder of Nourished by Soumya. Soumya is women health, fertility, and PCOS specialist and strongly believes that women need to eat, train, and live different to men. Soumya believes that women health is more than just fertility. She has worked with about 500 plus women at various stages of their life, right from puberty to menopause, towards betterment of their health. Soumya has used the knowledge to help a lot of tech startups to design evidence-based wellness programs that are on the principles of lifestyle change. Soumya's modern mindset towards nutrition and everyday life helps her understand how busy schedule can affect one's nutrition, and therefore she helps men and women thrive by bringing about a sustainable lifestyle change over a temporary diet change. Soumya, very warm welcome to the session today. We're very happy to have you in our session. And over to you.
Shiva, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad I can do this for Ethika. I love that Ethika and I have aligned on the same mindset of putting health and well-being first. So I'm glad to be doing this session with you guys. And hi everyone else. I think I'll start by just sharing my screen so you all would get a rough idea on what's going to happen. Shiva, I'm not able to share my screen. It's saying host has disabled participant screen sharing. I think you have to make me
Absolutely. Just give me 1 second. Here you go. Can you see it now?
Okay. Yep, I'm just going to start. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, Soumya.
Lovely, brilliant, cool. So firstly, thanks for joining us. I can see there's 50 plus of you guys who are interested in knowing more about label reading. So I guess before we get started, Shiva and I have a poll that we want to run just to sort of understand where everyone are at. So Shiva, could you run the first poll?
Sure. It's on your screens.
Lovely. Great. So the poll, it's basically on, have you used the nutrition label on the back of a product to ever make a choice? Let me know. Lovely. Great. Amazing. I love how diverse it is. Sometimes it's towards yes completely, sometimes it's partially towards no. Amazing. Great. Still have some more people answering the poll. This is so close. Like I've never seen a poll that's actually this close. There's always two extreme ends. Perfect. Great. So most of you all have used the nutrition label on the back, which is great. For those of you all who can navigate your way through the label, I hope this presentation will add to that value. I hope it will make you all even more mindful of the choices that you all make. To those of you all who haven't looked at the nutrition label, I'm glad you all haven't, because now you all are going to start doing it with us. We'll take you through all the basics from the start on all the components and how do you decode the words as well. Before that, we have one more question. Shiva, can you run the second poll? Lovely. So the question is basically that when you're looking at the label and you look at the ingredients, macronutrient content, and the food additives, is that ever a priority for you? Do you even want to look at what's there in it, or if you just want to buy it, like if you want to have Oreos, you're just going to buy it irrespective of what it has, what it's made of, what's the macro component, etc. Super. I'm glad to see that a lot of you all are actually considering it to be a priority. I feel that irrespective of a person, whether that person is just, without any health issues, without diabetes, without heart disease, or if a person who has one of them, irrespective of what your health status is, I think everyone should be reading it. And I'm glad that a lot of you have said that it is a priority. For those who said no, let's see if I can change your mind until the end of the session. Cool. I think we'll end the poll here. Brilliant. Just gonna cancel that so we get started. Great. So the objectives of today's session, I'm sure Ethika has shared a very interactive and interesting flyer with everyone, which highlights the key takeaways of this session. So I just wanted to put that up in front and sort of just tell you all that our main goal today is to literally decode the label, understand every single thing. What is it there? What is there on the label? Why is it there on the label? What are the components? What do certain ingredients mean? Things like that. So I think our main goal is to sort of be more mindful of what goes into our packaged food, so we can make a more informed choice and informed decision. So throughout today, we'll be using a lot of the chat box. So my suggestion would be have the presentation on one side and have your chat box open on the other side. Let's just move on to it. Okay. Now, components of a label. Okay. Before we go there, use the chat box and tell me that when you look at a label, when you're looking at a food product and you turn it around and you see the label, what are the first few things that pop up in front, or rather, what are the first few things that you observe? Fat content, trans fat, protein, fat content, calories, sugar, preservatives, carbohydrates, ingredients, preservatives, yes, in capitals, I love that. Ingredients, sugar, fat levels, brilliant. Vitamins, absolutely. Healthy food, carbs, sugar. Yep, exactly. Brilliant. What else do we have at the bottom? Sugars, unsaturated fat, vitamins, saturated fat, perfect. Brilliant. So it's pretty much that. And there's a lot more, but you guys are on the right track. So it is predominantly going to be, if you look at the label over here, yes, there's calories, yes, there's fat, there's cholesterol, sodium, carbohydrates, all of that. Now, if you look on the right, there are the components I've listed out in smaller subtopics, so we can dwell a little deeper in them. But I want everyone to sort of be mindful on what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, because there's one component that I've left out on purpose. Yes, to check if you all are concentrating in the session, but not really. I just wanted to see if, after taking you through everything, is there anything that is left that you guys want to clarify? Yes, I might have left out a couple of more of them. I don't know, maybe 2, maybe 3, but I know I've left out one for sure, just to check on, check on you guys and see if you guys are actually paying attention. Great. So firstly, what is a food label? Now, a lot of you would have seen that the labels are also called as nutrition fact, nutrition label, food label, macronutrient composition, so on and so forth. But it's all that it is that the ingredients that are present in that packaged food, the calorie composition, the macronutrient composition, all of that information put together at one place so a person can make an informed choice. Now, having this on every packaged food is a compulsion made by the government. the government of India has a regulatory body, the FSSAI. A lot of the products many of the products actually that are sold in the supermarket have to have the FSSAI stamp on them, other than fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, a lot of the supermarkets themselves, they don't allow anyone who doesn't have an FSSAI approved certification into the supermarket. So whenever you are going to supermarket, you could be a little at ease that, okay, fine, I know that every product over here will be FSSAI approved. However, that being said, the first step, no matter what you do, is to check for that FSSAI certification. So this is sort of just like a overview on what exactly a nutrition label is. Now, the first thing that we're moving on to is the serve size. Now, when you look at the serve size, or when you look at a nutrition facts panel, you'll see this thing on top called as serve size or servings or something like that, something related to a serve, what a serve looks like. Now, when they say a serve, they mean something like, let's say, for example, an Oreo packet has about 11 cookies in there. Now, if they don't have serving size written over there, a person can understand that a serving can be an entire packet, it can be half of the packet, it can be one cookie, it can be two cookies. So it's important for them to put it up over there. Most of the time, it's either in pieces like numbers, either 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, or it's in grams. For breakfast cereals and things like that, it would be in cups sometimes. For rotis that are packed and sold, for dosas, for biscuits, for what else, bread, they usually give slices or numbers again. So in slices, it would be 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So the serving basically shows you that how much, if I'm having cookies, Oreo cookies, how much is one serve and how much can I have? Usually over here in this table, they have one column with all the macros. Here, it has another column which has amounts per serving, and a last column that has amounts per 100 grams. So whenever you're buying a product, one product, and you're not comparing it to anything else, you look at the serving size and you look at what are the calories of that serving size. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is servings per container. Now, the same thing under serving size, if you see serving per container, that is basically, now for some products, they don't really write, have a per 100 grams column. If you want to know, let's say an Oreo packet, cookie packet is about 120 grams. And you want to know how much is the entire packet worth in terms of calories, protein, fats, etc. They've given you the serving size, let's say 2 cookies, and you know that the Oreo packet has 12 cookies. So if you know the calories for one serve, it's very easy to do maths and find out the calories for the entire packet. So 2 cookies, let's say, has 100 calories. 12 cookies in one pack would be about 6 serves. So 6 serves would have about 600 calories. Now, guys, these are just numbers. I don't know by heart how many calories does Oreo have, but I'm just using the word 100 to 12 as ease for calculation because my maths is very bad and I can't do the whole point thing and I'll need a calculator. So just to make things easier, use those numbers. So whenever the servings per container is important, whenever you want to, like, let's say you want to finish an Oreo packet, you're craving something and all of that, and you don't know the calories it has, you're on a diet and you have to count your macros, it's sort of important to know how many servings are there in a container. So you could do the easy math yourself and solve that bit. The next one are the calories. Now, a lot of us, whenever we are going through doing label, whenever we go grocery shopping and we look at a label, the first and the only thing we see are calories. Oh my God, this has so many calories. I'm not going to take this. Oh, okay, that's it. That's the only amount of calories it has. Cool, I'm going to take that. But where do these calories really come from? What macronutrient constitutes those calories? Now, if you're buying something that's carb-based, let's say, for example, bread, most of your calories are coming from the carbs in that bread. If you're buying tofu or paneer, most of your calories are coming from protein. But when you're comparing tofu and paneer together, most of your protein will come in paneer. Most of your calories will come through protein and fat, because paneer is high in protein and fat both. So it's sort of just mindful to know that if I'm going to buy, if I'm looking at the calories, okay, I know the calories are coming from this. Sometimes some products have loaded sugar in them. And it would say, so when we go to the total carbohydrate section, we're going to learn a little about the sugar section as well over here. So the sugars themselves constitute most of those calories. So the reason why we need to be mindful about the calories and need to be mindful about the other macros as well is to know what actually constitutes those calories. Is it coming from fats? Is it coming from proteins or carbohydrates? So yes, calories is needed by every single person. And no, you will not find a product other than Coke Zero, Diet Coke, and all the diet products that have 0 calories. So calories is something that will be there no matter what. Now, moving on to total fat. Usually in India, after calories, you either have carbohydrates and then protein. This is a label that I've sort of picked up from the internet, which was blank, ease of communication. So total fat is usually there up in other countries. In India, we have total carbs, protein, but there's no set sequence. 8 out of 10 products will have carbohydrate first, one product might have protein first, one might have fat. So total fat is basically the amount of fat, whether it be polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, saturated, or trans fat, that's present in this product as specific. Now, a lot of us feel that if a product has a lot of fat, let's avoid it. Why do we need something that has too much fat? I'm okay if it has more carbs in them, but if it has fat, let's just avoid it. But that's not how it should be. Fat is something that's needed by us humans for manufacturing of our hormones, for every single thing, for your brain to function, for a healthy heart, for a healthy kidney, all of that. So fat is necessary. But what type of fat is necessary? What type of fat can be avoided? Let's get into that. So saturated fat, I usually don't like using the word good and bad fat, but saturated fat is like the unhealthy fat or the fat that increases your cholesterol levels and puts you at a risk of getting heart disease. So saturated fat in specific, if a product has a lot of saturated fat in it, or rather even saturated fat present in it, having that product every day, not now, not tomorrow, not 1 month later, but in the future will definitely put you at risk for heart disease. Heart disease can be anything. It can be cholesterol levels being high. It can be your BP being high. It could be, it could be anything related to your heart. So it's better whenever we are looking at a product, have a look at the saturated fat content. I know a lot of y'all might have the question that, okay, if I'm looking at saturated fat, then how much is allowed? Like, what's the upper limit? The answer to all those questions, we have a separate section on that where we go into the upper limits for every nutrient. So we'll deep dive into that later. Saturated fat is predominantly animal sourced. In the sense, any product that has an animal product, it can be milk solids, it can be milk, it can be ghee, it can be butter, it can be anything related to milk, it can even be meat. Those would have higher saturated fat content. Anything that's fried in animal fat as well will have higher saturated fat content. So that is something to be mindful about whenever you're buying a product that is animal derived. Animal derived not necessarily means non-vegetarian. It can be vegetarian as well, but it may not be vegan because it would have a animal source. Cool. The next one are my two favorites. So polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. So these two in specific are the good fats or the healthy fats that actually increase our good fat, the HDL levels, good cholesterol levels in our body. Now, this is something that's required by our body every single day, whether it be in the form of olive oil, whether it be in the form of nuts and seeds, whether it be in the form of any other seed-based oil like avocado oil, things like that. Now, polyunsaturated and monounsaturated in specific are found also in fish, salmon, any animal seafood products specifically. Some products can be fortified or enhanced, nutritionally enhanced with polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. It will not say added fats, but it will say high in DHA and DHA. So those are like some two code words that people use to show that it has good fats. EHA and DHA are nothing but healthy fats. So that is something to look out for. So whenever you're looking at the label of your total fat, make sure that the saturated fat content is lower than the polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. However, this might not apply in every case. I'm not saying avoid junk food completely and don't touch a product that has saturated fat. That will not happen. That is not possible and it is not sustainable. Pick a product up that has saturated fat, but only have that once a month or put a cutoff to twice in a month at the most. Instead, try opting for products that are of the similar category, but the numbers are better in terms of the fats. Cool. The next one that a lot of companies, not just in India, but a lot of food companies all over the world leave out is the trans fat. Even this label doesn't have it. So trans fat is the most unhealthiest fat. I call trans fat as bad fat. Yes, I don't use good and bad, but this is the time where I use the word bad because the amount of damage it does is drastic. It is something that happens over some time. It doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in 2 days, but it happens over time. So staying away from trans fat as much as you can, would be beneficial. I'm not saying don't go down to McDonald's and have French fries. Please have French fries, but know that it has trans fat in it. But probably if you're buying a large, as always, try getting a small instead. Or if you're having French fries once in a week, try having it once in 2 weeks to start off with. So just look out for a product. If you're comparing two packaged products, let's say 2 chips packet, both of them have trans fat listed on them. My suggestion would be go for the one that has a lower content of trans fat than the one that has a higher content. Cool. So this is about fats. The next one, which is similar to fats, is cholesterol. Now, a lot of us look over here at cholesterol and we freak out that, oh my God, this has cholesterol, I shouldn't be having it, things like that. But products like nuts as well have cholesterol in them. Not a lot of companies that sell nuts, however, put cholesterol on their package until and unless it's processed. Now, sometimes the cholesterol that's mentioned on these nutrition fact labels for vegetarian products may mean that it has a animal derived source. So cholesterol is predominantly 99% of the time found only in animal products. So anything with dairy, anything with meat, anything with chicken, fish, anything that's animal based has cholesterol in them. Later on, I'll show you all a difference of paneer and tofu, and you will be able to tell tofu doesn't have cholesterol, whereas paneer has cholesterol in it, and it's evident. So as a rule of thumb, any product in specific or any animal-based product shouldn't have cholesterol in it. Sodium. How many of y'all use the chat box and tell me how many of y'all think that looking at sodium in a label is important? Say me for those who feel sodium is important. Looking at sodium content is important. Lovely, great, amazing. Yes, very, very important. Agreed. Cool. So whether you have heart disease, great, it's important, but never looked at it. I'll give you an easier way on how you can look at it and make an easier decision of should I have it, should I not have it. Those who haven't seen it so far, I think start looking at it, because a lot of processed products, like for example, even peanut butter, you think that it may not have sodium, but there are a lot of companies who add ingredients to peanut butter. Peanut butter is technically supposed to be 100% roasted peanut, but a lot of people add sugar, they add salt, they add oil, they add peanut oil. They hide the word oil in different ways, like mono and triglycerides into it. So it's sort of important to look at the label and see if they have salt in them. And I'll give you all a cheat sheet for whenever you go shopping and looking at the ingredient list and it doesn't say salt, but the sodium content's high. So how do you know it has sodium? There are words that a lot of companies use to hide sodium or hide salt to sort of put a person off that, okay, this doesn't have salt in it. It may not have added salt, but it has salt in other So sodium, yes, in small quantities, it is important for our hearts, for our kidneys to function. But in too much quantities, it can damage the same as well. Those with heart disease, sodium is something that you have to look at, especially those with high BP. Now, I know a lot of us may have high BP and are not on any medication because we feel, no, it's work stress, no, it's family stress, it will go away, it will go away. But if you're not on any medication and your BP is high, consider looking at the sodium of every food and try limiting your sodium intake. It's your call when you want to get on the medication, but at least in terms of food, try making a more informed and a healthier choice. So in terms of sodium, just make sure that whenever, again, you're looking at two products, the sodium content is the lowest. My suggestion would be, if there is a product that you can, that there is a no sodium or zero sodium version available, grab that product. Grab that product instead of the product that has sodium in it. Moving on to the next one, and I think the most interesting one for all women is the total carbohydrates. How many of you all actually look at the total carbohydrate content first before you look at anything else? No calories, no protein, no fat, but look at the total carbs present in that item. Again, use the chat box and say me. Great. But how many grams of salt is good? I'll come to that in the next bit. No? Okay. Lovely. Perfect. However, carbs is something that I look at, and I'll tell you why. Not with the whole intention that carbs are bad or you shouldn't have carbs if you're trying to lose weight, but because there is this very important nutrient under carbs called dietary fiber. Now, moving on to dietary fiber first, before I give you all the information on this slide. The dietary fiber is, I call it a miracle nutrient, because dietary fiber solves every problem in your body. If you're not losing weight, increase your fiber content. If you have cholesterol, if you have blood pressure, increase your fiber content. If you're constipated, increase your fiber content. If you have diarrhea, increase your fiber content. Yes, in constipation and diarrhea, it depends what type of fiber. If you have the wrong type of fiber, it can aggravate it. But fiber is the most important nutrient over here, especially when you're buying bread, for example. Now, a lot of us always try and pick brown bread instead of white bread or instead of multigrain bread. A lot of us feel multigrain bread has a lot of seeds in them. I don't want to have it. Brown bread is brown, but so I can have it. And white bread tastes better. So white bread is my first choice, but okay, I have to be healthy. So let's buy brown bread. Brown bread is like the middle ground for a lot of us. But whenever you turn around the labels and you compare all of them, we have an activity coming on later. So I'm not going to give you all too much information here. But whenever you turn the label around and you compare white to brown to whole grain, you'll see a huge difference. And the question also is that which one's the most healthiest option? So I'm not giving you the answer for it, but you'll see a huge difference. And the answer to that is in the ingredient list on why is there that huge difference. So every time you're buying any product, look at the dietary fiber content for sure, and pick a product that has a higher content in it, higher dietary fiber content in it. Now, sugars. Sugars, yes, they are found naturally in a lot of foods, especially fruits. So don't go if there is a box of apples that's packaged and has a label on it and it says sugars X number. Don't look at that X number and be like, oh my God, this has added sugar in it. So apples naturally have sugar in them. They don't have added sugar. So always, whenever you are looking at the table, now here, there is an option that says sugars. Some tables where they are claiming to have zero sugar, they have another option which says zero added sugar. So the word added is your keyword here. Look for the word that says added sugar and then you look at the nutrient content there. Next, moving on to the next one, which is our second last one, protein. So this is something that a lot of gym goers look at, but I would suggest everyone to look at the protein nutrient in the label, only because if you're buying a snack, the higher the protein content, the better. It fills you up. It keeps you satiated for a longer period of time. So if you're buying a protein bar, well, protein bar is the wrong example, but let's say you're buying a pack of biscuits, digestive biscuits, multiple brands. Look at the protein content in that and pick the one that has a higher protein content, only so that you're full for a longer period of time. My two main nutrients that I usually look at in a label are protein. It's protein and what's the other one? Fiber, along with the ingredient list. I do look at the calories as well, but protein and fiber are like my decision maker. The second last one is vitamins and minerals. Now, a lot of you would have seen that there's iron, calcium, vitamin C, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, all of that written on the nutrient panel. And I'm not sure if anyone uses that as well. How many of y'all use the micronutrient content to see how much iron is there, how much calcium is there, how much vitamin C? Use the chat box and just tell me if you use that box. How many of y'all use them a lot? No. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Never. Great. Okay. So the reason why this is usually needed as a rule of thumb on every box, especially these four nutrients: vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. Vitamin A is something that pregnant women need to be aware of, not consuming too much of it in packaged foods. Calcium and vitamin C usually go together for absorption of calcium. A lot of people or a lot of women in the long run end up getting brittle bones or osteoporosis. So the government has made it mandatory for these two ingredients to be listed. So women, children, all of us know that how much calcium am I having through this. The reason why iron is here is because out of 10 women, 8 women are anemic. The reason why that is again so high is because that is one nutrient that goes, that women don't think it's important to supplement themselves with. That iron I'm having spinach, I'm having mutton, I'm having beans, I'm having lentils. Why do I need to supplement iron? But the requirement for iron in women is higher because of their menstrual cycle. The government is still trying to spread awareness about that, but until then, look out for the iron, the iron nutrient in the box and try picking the one that has higher iron in them. If throughout the day, not just women, but even men, if you all are, getting lethargic or fatigued, brain fog, tired for no reason, headaches, things like that, if you are getting all of that throughout the day and you all don't know why, one of the reasons would be that your hemoglobin and your iron stores are low. It's something that is very obvious, but not a lot of us try putting the puzzle together and understanding why is that happening. So a lot of us who are experiencing that probably just get your iron levels checked and start looking at the iron content on the table. Now, before I move on, use the chat box and tell me there is one thing I've missed out that I know I've missed out. What do you guys think that is? It's probably not something you'll look at, but it's something that's there here. What is it that I've missed? Veg or non-veg? Potassium, okay. Preservatives, that will come in the ingredient section. Numbers, energy, I said calories before. Calories I touched on was the first thing I started with. In terms of numbers, there's a sample over here. So yeah, so that's something that you can keep an eye on. Other carbs, very good one, but most of the panels don't really have other carbs mentioned in them. So that's not something I usually touch base on. Zinc, magnesium, yep, so those are not important ones. That's why we don't keep an eye on that. Cool, okay, I'm going to tell you what that is. Stop. So this percentage daily value, this is the one thing that not a lot of us look at. There's probably no reason for everyone to look at it as well, but if any one of us are sort of monitoring our macros, for them, it's important to have a look at it. So if the percentage daily value is basically based on a 2000 calorie diet, or a calorie diet based on IMR. So ICMR is our ICMR NIN is like the governing body, and they say that an average person should be 65 kilos. So it's based on their calorie weight. So whenever you're doing macro counting, it sort of tells you what percentage. Moving on to the next one. Now, I think this is something that's important, and you guys keep your screenshotting tool or your camera ready, because I want you to take a few screenshots next. The most important thing about the nutrition facts, the ingredient label, first and the most important thing is that the first ingredient is in the highest quantity and the last ingredient is in the lowest quantity. So as you go along the ingredient list, the quantity of that ingredient is the less. Obviously, they're not going to give you out the exact quantity because then you'll know the recipe, but they just do that to keep you aware, to keep you in the loop that this is the ingredient that's used in the largest amount and in the ascending order. So that is something that's the ingredients list is something that has to be mentioned on every product. Now, sometimes a lot of consumers, if you look at cornflakes boxes, in the nutrition label, they have a column which says with 1 cup of milk. Even though they're saying with 1 cup of milk, the milk can't be listed as an ingredient because it's not added into. What you add to the ingredient, even though it's obvious, cornflakes, you have to have the milk only, they're still not going to list it. It's just going to be the ingredient present in it. Now take a screenshot of this. This is the most important one of all. These are code words or hidden words that are used by a lot of companies instead of using the word sugar, salt, saturated fats, or fats. It will take you some time to sort of get used to this bit, but once you get used to it, I think it's something that you all will use very often. Like it will just come to you all from the back of your head. If something has, let's say, hydrogenated vegetable oil and a product says no fats, obviously that's not true. It still has hydrogenated oil. The other thing to be mindful about is that if a thing says, it's oven fried or oven baked, not necessarily it doesn't have fat in it. It's probably coated in fat and then it's baked or then it's oven fried. Okay, so take a screenshot of this. Towards the end of the presentation, I have a link that you guys can use to access the presentation as well. But that will be available for only 14 days. So just try taking a screenshot of it now itself. Moving on. The next, so there are 3 more components that we haven't touched base on. Oh, before that, going back to the slide, the other day I came across a website called the Whole Truth Foods. Let me see if I can show it to you guys. So there is this website called the Whole Truth. They have this thing called as the chemical dictionary. Now, if you want to know what the code words mean, for example, E621. Hope they have it. Yeah. So it will tell you what E621 is it bad, and what should you do? Like, should you avoid it when possible? Can you eat it? Things like that. So this is something that you all can make a note of and use this whenever you all want to know what it has. Going back to the presentation. Great. Now, what is important? Now, these are the 3 things that are important for everyone to know. Yes, the components of the label in terms of macronutrient composition ingredients are important, but there are a few other golden rules that I would want you all to look at. One is the food allergy information. If you all are allergic to any such food, if you all are vegans and don't want to have foods that are processed in the same unit as a animal-based company would process, the same facility, have a look at the food allergy information. Now, most of the time it says that this ingredient contains blah, 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 blah. And most of the time that blah, blah, blah is peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, fish, cow's milk, egg, soybeans, sesame, and wheat. These are the 9 main 9 main components that you could be allergic to. However, there is one more thing where they say it may contain traces of. That means that product has been processed in a facility that has these ingredients in, like for example, the same machine has been used to beat the batter of Oreo biscuits as the same machine of a company that uses Good Day biscuit with nuts. So there they will mention on the Oreo packet that may contain traces of peanuts or may contain traces of cashew nuts. So that is something they usually mention over there. Now or sometimes the ingredients that are used in the product, like let's say they have sourced peanuts from a place where that processes dairy products as well. So maybe this facility that's produced Oreo biscuits doesn't use dairy products, but where the peanuts were produced, they use dairy products over there. So it has to be mentioned saying that it may contain. There's no compulsion, but it may contain. Just going to pop this open. Google food name facts. Do you know any websites which shows us about the calories? Where can I fetch the calories of any food? You can, Naresh answered it beautifully. You can literally just Google it. There are a couple of websites as well. One is MyFitnessPal is one, which is the most commonly used one. But it's slightly incorrect. Like India had one from FSSAI. ICMR NIN, they created an Android version of a calorie counting app. So you can probably check that out. But I don't think there's anything such. Maybe Healthify Me has one. So you can probably download Healthify Me and check that out as well. Cool. Moving on to the next one, which is health claims. Now, this is something I'm not going to teach you all everything in detail. Again, something I want you guys to screenshot. It's basically some products make a claim like, oh, this fat is reduced fat than the original product. This fat is light. This product is light, or this product is cholesterol free. Now, this is what it means. Now, when a product is cholesterol free, it does not necessarily mean that it doesn't contain fat. Yes, it may be cholesterol free because it's plant-based, but it still contains fat. Now, whenever a manufacturer says fat free, the product must have less than 0.15%. Sometimes it should even be less than 1 gram. To put it in grams, it should be less than 1 gram when they make statements like that. Now, light is usually not just meant for light in terms of fat or ingredients or sodium or anything. It could just mean light in color, flavor, and texture. So it's important to look at the ingredient list again. Here, this is where you compare Tata normal salt with Tata Light. Now, Tata Light has 98% sodium and 2% potassium. That is more harmful than the normal salt. So it's better don't go for Tata Light and all of that because you're eating potassium. Potassium shouldn't really be eaten in the form of salt. Hidden potassium in bananas and things like that. That much amount is enough. But sometimes having too much of potassium can put a strain on your heart. So it's best checked to, it's best to look at the ingredients and what's actually going in it. Now, certified organic, FSSAI has launched a new initiative called Jaivik Bharat. It's basically a green tick in a circle on a product that says it's organic. FSSAI is doing that. However, there are certain other organic certification bodies that regulate this as well. So anytime anyone says they are organic, just have a look for that accreditation behind their package. That is important. Oven baked and not fried, we touched on it before. So have a look at the ingredients and the fat content. Reduced fat and salt, it basically means that there should be 25% of less fat or salt in the original product. Sugar-free or no added sugar, same thing. The product may be free of sucrose and table sugar, but not other forms of sugars. So those 10, 20 ingredient names that I've given you for sugar, sometimes they use those ingredients in the product and they say, oh, we are sugar-free or no added sugar. Technically, they're not lying, but it's something that we assume that, okay, there won't be sugar. So this is something to be mindful of every time you're looking at those claims. The next one is dates. Okay, firstly, use the chat box before I go to that. Use the chat box and tell me use the chat box and tell me that if a product says it's used by X date, would you still have it after the use by date? Now, mind you, I'm just trying to understand if you know the difference between used by and best. So would you use it after the use by date? I like that Mahesh saying no with 100 O's. Great. No, absolutely. So use by is like the gold standard of please do not use this product no matter what. Make sure you use it by this date. It is illegal for brands to sell a product that is past its use by date. You can go sue them and get money as well. I didn't tell you this, but you can do that. So use by date is something that's that. Best before. Now, best before. Um, if can you use a product that is past its best before date? Harita has already said it. Anyone else? Okay, no. Can you use a product after its best before date? Cool. Yes. Yes. Lovely. Great. So moving on to the dates thing, we've discussed use by. Best before basically tells you that the food is safe to eat in terms of its quality by this specific date. After that, we can't assure you how the quality is going to be. It is still illegal for a company, for a supermarket to put the best before date products on their rack, but you can still have it. It's not something that's going to go stale. However, some products that have used a lot of oil in them, it's better to be avoided because then the oil starts getting rancid. The baked on or packed on date basically tells you that was it made, what date was it made on. This is usually for fresh produce. If you look at curd boxes, it usually tells you, it doesn't say manufactured by, it said made on and the date. So have a look at that and it tells you how fresh that product is. A secret trick for whenever you're going grocery shopping and buying curd, always buy the curd boxes at the back because whenever the fresh produce comes, the staff puts the fresh boxes at the back and the old produce in front, and they want that to sell. Sometimes they even put discounts on it and stuff, especially the Epicamia, the flavored yogurt. So if you're someone who has flavored yogurts and there's still 3 days to go for the use by best before dates, grab it because there's still 3 days to go. But if you're looking for fresh curd that's going to stay in your fridge for at least a week, try getting the stock at the back. Cool. Moving on to the next and the last most important thing. So before we dig deeper, this is something that I want all of y'all to again take a screenshot of. This is the one part that I told y'all that we will talk more on, that how much of it can be eaten, how much of it should be eaten when you guys are going to buy it, when going to buy a packaged product. So take a screenshot of this. You will still have the same, you can still grab the screenshot when I give you all the link to the presentation, but take a screenshot of it because we have an activity coming up and a screenshot would be helpful. So let's start from the right side of the green bit first, and then we'll go clockwise. So firstly, you have to look, there are two columns. One is the per serve and per 100 grams column. Now, whenever you are comparing two same products, let's say 2 brands of brown bread, always look at the column size. Why? Because the serve size for each of those brands might be different. Like one, let's say Britannia is putting one serve at 45 grams, whereas another company is putting one serve at 50 grams. So it's not fair to compare it per serve size. So it's better that you compare it on the 100-gram column. Now, whenever you're looking at the calories, now this is something that's been adopted from the Australian government only because the Indian government doesn't have something so colorful. But whenever you're looking at the energy, this has kilojoules over here. But in India, we have kilocalories of calories. So over here, it says 600 kilojoules, which translates to about 150 calories. So whenever you're looking for a snack, try not exceeding 150 calories per serve of the snack. So again, looking at this column, per serve of the snack, it should not have more than 150 calories. Moving on to sugars. Now, avoiding sugars, you don't have to. Now, if you want to completely avoid sugar, the only thing in the supermarket that you can have are Diet Coke and maybe nuts because they have less amount of sugar in them. But avoiding sugars is not something that's sustainable. So we have a limit for that as well. So looking at the per 100 gram column for sugar, try and stay below 15 grams per 100 grams. If this is more than 15 grams, then have a look at the ingredients. The sugar will be placed as the first or second ingredient. That is when you don't take it at all. You don't touch a product that has sugar as its first, second, or third ingredient also. Okay. These are the other names that sugar is usually known as, where they may say, even though they say that no added sugar and the sugar content might be 11.8, in the ingredient list, they may have lactose or maltose written in them. That's why the sugar is higher. So it's something to note the different names for sugar. Moving on to salt. Now, this is something I want everyone to start being mindful of. If you have been doing it, great. If you haven't done it, start doing it today. So choose a low sodium option in all whatever food that you can. Foods that have less than 400 mg per 100 grams is okay. Like, you can still buy that. But the ones that have less than 120 grams are the best. Close your eyes and pick it up, no matter what. Well, if they're high in calories, think twice. But if you're comparing between two products, just make sure the lowest, the better. If it's less than 400, good. If it is less than 120 mg, great. Okay. Again, sodium or salt is known as MSG as well. That is something, the famous, or rather, I should say the infamous ingredient that Maggi was banned for. So have a look at all of this. These are some of the other names that sodium is known as. Now, in terms of ingredients, we've already discussed it, so I'm not going to touch on that. Now, fiber. Fiber is usually present either as a separate topic here altogether, or it is a sub nutrient over here. Now, fiber, the more the better. Try getting more than 3 grams of fiber per 100 grams. I usually recommend all my clients to try and go closer to 5, anything more than 5 grams. Whole grain breads usually have more than 5 grams of fiber per serve, whereas brown bread has lesser than that. So try aiming for something that has more than 5 grams. Even though it says 3 grams, I would say 5 grams is your target. Now, going to fat. So this is something I think a lot of you all would have had questions with, that how much fat is enough and what is the cutoff point. So try choosing foods that have less than 10 grams of total fat per 100 grams. So this column, anything less than 10 grams of total fiber. In terms of for milk, yogurt, ice cream, so basically animal or dairy products, try doing 2 grams per 100 grams. Okay. However, this might be different for couples who are trying to conceive. Having high fat milk products, which is milk and yogurt, has been proven to be beneficial for couples who are trying to conceive. So if you're trying to conceive, or if you're pregnant without any health issues, you can choose a normal fat instead of a low fat alternative. For cheese, try aiming for 15 grams per 100 grams. Now, saturated fat, lower the better. Try aiming for less than 3 grams per 100 grams. Yes, these are too many numbers. But once you look at it, once you have an idea of how to use it, my suggestion would be after the session, when you go back home, get a few products of yours out with you and go through this sheet and compare those two products to get friendly with it. There'll be a time where you're going to be a pro at it, and I think you'll be taking a session instead of me. But yeah, it's something to be mindful of in terms of the saturated fat content. So pretty much this is what a nutrition label is. This is what the information that goes in it. We'll just do the activity session now. Cool. So firstly, scan the activity, the QR code. That is the QR code for the activity session. Shiva, you can take part as well.
Absolutely.
And those who want to refer to the presentation, you can scan the QR code and use that as your reference ground for the activities. Along with this, the previous slide, which I had shown you guys, the screenshot of that can also be used to give you all an idea on on how do you progress with those activities. So there are 5 different activities in them. So what it is, I'm just going to show you all one of them and explain it. Cool. So this is activity 1. Basically a comparison between brown bread and multigrain bread, and there are a few questions here. There's activity 2, 3, 4, and 5 as well. So my suggestion would be have the chat box open. Don't send your answers yet. Don't send them. but you can start typing your answers there in one word, not necessarily more than that. And just practice what we've learned. So it's going to be a little easier for you to understand since it's all going to be fresh in your mind. So my suggestion, we'll give you all about 5 minutes. My suggestion would be, don't everyone start with activity 1. Some do activity 2, some do activity 5. Try doing as many as you can in this activity, and then we'll discuss it within 5 minutes. I'll just keep the QR codes open for y'all. And we'll get back. It's exactly 4:26. We'll give you guys time till 4:30. And then I'll run through the activity, maybe a couple of them, and we'll give you all time to ask questions after that. Cool. I think we'll get started. Give me 1 second. So ingredient 1, now the ones who have sent the questions, we'll go through each one of them. But let's get started with the activity first. I'm just going to take our activity 1. Yep, cool, perfect, great. Now, if you look at this carefully, the first question is saying which one is the better option. Usually the way to go about it is by looking at especially for breads, one is brown bread, the other one is multigrain bread. My only thing that I look at while buying breads is the fiber content. So looking at the fiber content, multigrain sells 7 grams per 100 grams, whereas for Britannia, it sells 4.7 grams. Now, if you look at the small cheat sheet, over there it says dietary fiber of 3 grams per 100 grams. But I told you guys sort of aim for 5 grams. So thinking of that from that perspective, it's obviously going to be, the multigrain bread. That's a better option because it has higher fiber content. Which one has more fiber? We've already answered it. Which one is better for weight loss? Whenever anyone's trying to lose weight or build muscle, it's always better to look for a product that is higher in fiber and less in terms of refined products. Now, when you look at the Britannia brown bread, over here, the second ingredient is refined wheat flour or maida. Now, something that has maida is not really a good option. Like maida is the second ingredient, literally, a good option for weight loss. So, and if you look at the Britannia multigrain, it has whole wheat flour atta, legumes and oil seeds, and then it has more types of seeds, ragi flour, wheat bran, so on and so forth. Even if there's maida later on over here, I don't mind because most of the nutrients and the fiber is coming from seeds, from atta, etc., etc. So for me, the suggestion for weight loss would be try choosing something that is that's more in fiber. Look at the ingredient list and see something that has less refined flour. Why does brown bread have high carbs than multigrain bread? This is something that was a trick question. I just want to see if anyone's written it. Has anyone written the answer to it? Anyone knows why does brown bread have high carbs than multigrain? Sugar, refined flour from the sugar, added sugars, okay. Gluten, okay. Cool. So the reason why brown bread has higher carbs than multigrain, yes, it is because of the sugar, and yes, it is also because of the refined wheat flour over here. If you look at it, the whole wheat flour content in the brown bread is only 32% here. Here it's 54%, and the other thing comes from the brown bread from refined wheat flour. So wheat flour usually ends up having more carbs that spikes the sugars up. The next activity, which is activity 2. So this is something that's pretty easy. So this was easy for me, but now I know for all of you all as well. This is nothing but a comparison of different breakfast cereals. One is rolled oats, the other one is the infamous Special K, and one is Chocos. Now, which one has higher iron content in it? Now, if you look at iron at rolled oats per 100 gram is 3.7. Special K iron is 11 mg. And for the Chocos, it's 5 mg. So Special K, yes, it has higher iron content, so that gets, so which one has higher iron content is Special K. Which option is higher in calories? Again, looking at per 100 grams, this is 345. Special K is 375 per 100 grams, and we have Kellogg's at 390. So technically, they're not all, that far away from each other. But if you actually have to make a decision, you can choose that oats is obviously the better option. But for some cheat days, if you're looking at Special K versus Chocos, I wouldn't even mind Chocos because it's only 20 calories away, not even 20, 15 calories away. So Chocos is fine. Which is high in fiber. Oats has 10.4 per 100 grams. Special K has 5.1 and Chocos has 3.5. So obviously oats is higher in fiber. The reason why oats is higher in fiber is because 100% ingredients are only rolled oats over here. Whereas if you look at Special K, first ingredient is rice flour. Rice flour has lesser amount of fiber compared to wheat flour or even rolled oats. But what's something that's surprising, which not a lot of people think, is that Chocos, the first ingredient in Chocos is wheat solid. So again, derived from wheat flour predominantly. So first ingredient is wheat flour, which is 29.6, and then you have maida. So that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't even mind Chocos, is because it actually has wheat flour as like the first ingredient that goes into it. Whereas the Special K has rice. Which has less sugar. I think it's pretty less. I think I should have reframed that, which has lesser added sugar. Now over here, if you see it's 0.5 of total sugars and added sugars. If you move to Special K, total sugars is 26.5 per 100 grams and added sugar is 25.5. When you're looking at the, where is this? When you're looking at the Chocos, here it's only 30, so it's only more, it's 5 grams or more. So again, obviously oats is the best option. But if you want to choose in between these two, Special K is the next, and then Chocos. So I would say Chocos is probably Chocos and Special K for me go hand in hand. So again, which in ascending order, which is the most preferred and why? It's these two. So obviously rolled oats first because the only ingredient is oats, and fiber content is high, and then followed by Special K, then by Chocos. However, for me, I would put both Special K and Chocos at the same level because some Special K has a few flaws, Chocos have a few flaws, but both of them can have sort of their own heroes. Cool. Moving on to the next activity. I think we'll just do one more activity and then we'll take questions. So let me choose what activity. I think we'll do activity 5. So in activity 5, if you look at it, there are 2 different peanut butters. One peanut butter is 100% roasted peanuts. Whereas if you're looking at the ingredients of the other peanut butter, they have a few other additions in them. Now, which one is higher in fat? If you're looking at the box of just peanut butter, you'll assume both are the same fat content and you'll pick one. But when you look at the fat content over here, per 100 grams is 51 and here per 100 grams is 49. Now, for obvious reasons, this one is higher fat and this one is lower. But there's not that major of a difference. Now, if you're looking at the ingredient list, I know that most of my fat in option 2 or all of my fat in option 2 is coming from 100% peanuts. But when I'm looking at option 1, I don't know where fat is coming from over here. Is it coming from the peanut oil? Mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, that's another hidden name for fats. So they played very smart over there. And roasted peanuts. So the fat can come from either or over there. Which one contains oil? Obviously, the one that has added ingredients. Now, the most important question over here is sodium. Now, if you're looking at this, sodium per serve is only 25 mg. But when you come here, sodium per 100 grams is 356 mg, which is what? 10 times, more than 10 times the amount of sodium. Because they've added salt. They've added iodized salt in it. Hence, the high amounts of sodium. Which one is a better option? I think all of y'all know that by now, that this one is the better option. I missed a question, sorry. Which one is high in sugar? So just looking at added sugar, this has 0. Going up over here, looking at sugar, they haven't very smartly said if it's added or present or whatever, but any which ways, sugar is 8 grams per 100 grams over here. So better option, most certainly, hands down, the peanut butter which says 100% roasted peanuts. All of your commercially available ones, the sunflower peanut butter, I think American Garden as well, all of those have additives in them. So next time you're buying peanut butter, just have a look at that as well. Cool. So we are done. We'll take questions now. I've seen a few questions up, so I'm going to go back and
Thank you, Soumya, for the wonderful session. Before we move to the question and answers, I would just like to present a poll, a feedback poll, to understand how our participants liked our session today. Great. So the feedback poll is on the screens. Request everyone who is in the session, take a moment and give us your valuable feedback. I hope you all liked the session today. It was very, very informative. Soumya did her best, and I personally am taking a lot from this session. I'm going to spend a lot of time in the markets now going forward.
I'm glad it helped.
Yeah, in the meantime, Soumya, I think we can take questions.
Okay, cool.
While people give the feedback. So, Soumya, you want me to read the questions to you, or are you going to pick them up?
Let's both of us have a look at the questions, because I think I might miss out on some questions as well. So
Sure.
I think you've already put the question. I'll ask you to get started.
And also, if any of the participants wants to ask a question directly to Soumya, you can raise your hands. I can move you to the panel. You can, talk to Soumya one-on-one, and then get your queries clarified. I see her raised hand, Maunika Kogineni. I'm going to allow Monica to speak. Monica, if you have a question, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, for diabetic patients, one biscuit is there that contains no sugar. Is it better to use?
Which one? Sorry.
For diabetic patients, that is one biscuit is there. Unibic is no sugar, like.
It says no sugar, no added sugar.
Yes.
No added sugar.
No added sugar.
Okay, so anytime you're shopping for a diabetic patient or anyone who is diabetic, it's always better to first look at the ingredient section. Look for the word sugar, even though they're saying no added sugar. Look for the word sugar. I've given you all a cheat sheet on the other words that sugar is known for. If it doesn't have any of those, and it says total added sugar is less than 5 grams per 100 grams, it's a good option to take. However, sometimes sugar is substituted with artificial sweeteners. Some artificial sweeteners react to an individual as well, causing bloating. Some people are allergic to it as well. So it's just mindful to see what is the replacement of sugar they are using.
Okay.
Lovely.
I hope that answered your question, Monica. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Monica.
There's one interesting question, Soumya, I see in the chat box is, what is the guarantee that the nutrition fact chart is not manipulated and exaggerated?
Very good question. Honestly, if we were living in a country other than India, I would tell you 200% guarantee that it's not manipulated. It can't be manipulated outside of India, because over there the fines are pretty hefty and it can lead to shutting down of the company and them not getting a food license ever. But in India, unfortunately, bribes exist. People take the shortcut to get an FSSAI license. However, recently, about 6 months ago, FSSAI have started taking it upon themselves to be a little more diligent with their work and do random check on FSSAI on the different products. One such example is Saffola Masala Oat. There was a time where Saffola Masala Oat didn't say that it has salt in the ingredient list. sorry, it didn't say that it had 0 sodium. That was written 0 grams of sodium. But if you look in the ingredient list, the second ingredient was salt. So some products recently are being reviewed over and over by NCCI to be a little more, to rather I would say be helpful to the public and be a little more transparent. So it's starting to get there at the level that we want them to in terms of being able to trust what's on the label. But again, they have to, every company, they have to be aware of what they're putting, especially in the ingredient list, because if something reacts to you and that was not there in that product, you can sue the company for it. So yeah, pretty much that. I hope that answers your question.
I think so. Thanks for the answer. One question again from Hina is a question that I also wanted to personally ask is we do hear a lot of atta noodles and atta maggies and all that. So how different is that from the regular ones that they sell?
So I would say atta Maggi is a little better compared to the normal Maggi. That being said, I wouldn't say go have atta Maggi every day. But atta Maggi, I think its first ingredient, as far as I remember, even the rolled oats Maggi, the first ingredient is whole wheat flour. So when your first ingredient is whole wheat flour, it obviously means that they are using atta or rolled oats as the first ingredient. But that being said, the amount of MSG that still goes into Maggi is not something that's recommended for everyone to have, even on a weekly basis. Pregnant women are advised to have nothing, no zero MSG in their pregnancy. So pretty much I would say for taste, normal Maggi is amazing. I have normal Maggi over atta Maggi. But health-wise, atta Maggi should be your first option. But if it's something that you're having once in a while, as a dietitian, I would suggest you to go for the normal Maggi. But as someone who's being more aware on what they're shopping, what they're putting into their cart on a regular basis, especially for children, choose the atta Maggi or the oats Maggi.
Wonderful. Soumya, I have one personal question that I wanted to ask. So when we go buy ice creams in these so-called shops, supermarkets, right? So not every product has ice cream written over it. Now, if you look
Frozen
at packs, yeah, it's called frozen dessert.
Yeah.
And some say ice cream, some say sorbet.
Yeah.
So can you throw some light on this?
Absolutely. So there are some brands that actually call themselves ice cream. Amul is one such brand. So I'm just going to refer to 2 brands for now. There might be more in the market, but these are the 2 ones that stand out for me because my partner loves ice cream and he probably has it on an everyday basis. So I had to shed light on that. So firstly, the Amul ice cream, that is something that says ice cream and it has milk solids in them. It has milk present in them as the first ingredient. But when you look at something that calls themselves a frozen dessert, for example, Quality Wall, the first ingredient is oil. So that's one of the reasons why it's made with an emulsion. So if you put oil and water together and you beat it up really fast, it forms like a very creamy, thick texture. Sometimes they even use dalda or hydrogenated oil instead of regular refined oil. So when you're comparing these 2 frozen desserts versus ice cream, the one that calls themselves an ice cream is a good cheat meal or cheat option compared to frozen dessert because the ice cream one is made with milk. Frozen dessert's not made with milk, it's made with oil. The sorbet is not made with any milk product. It's predominantly packaged form. It's predominantly going to be sugar, like let's say, for example, orange. It's going to be orange juice, orange extract, and certain additives in them. There won't be any form of milk. These are the ones that are slightly lesser in calories when compared to dairy ice creams. So for someone who loves sweet and who can't go without sweet and wants to have an ice cream every day, I would suggest that have the sorbets more often compared to the ice cream.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that. There's one other question from the chat box. Is it good to have protein, 1-2 spoons of protein every day with milk? And if so, which brand do you think is good and safe? And adding to that, I also, now we are overloaded with the kind of protein that we get in the market. There's plant protein, there is milk protein, and there are a lot of other proteins available Just when you think you know everything about a product, there are 10 other products, right?
Yeah.
So how do we cope up with this?
Yeah, great. Lovely question again. So my suggestion is don't always turn to protein powders first. Don't turn to something that's packaged and available as your macro. Like you don't have carbohydrate powders. Why should you have protein powder? It's something that you can have through food. So I would always push for that happening first. If you have hair loss, if you are vegetarian and are looking to bulk up, and the only source of protein for you is, let's say, dals, then it makes more sense to start protein powders. But for someone who is just looking for a supplement protein because they can't, they don't want to eat that much meat, they don't want to have other sources of protein, I would say first try food. The requirement of protein per day for a healthy individual, not for muscle gain, not for anything, is about 0.8 grams protein per kg body weight. So do the multiplication, multiply it by your weight and have a look. Most of the times we end up meeting our protein intake through foods and we just assume that we're not. If you want to start taking protein powders, it's something that could be taken, but I would say do it only after going through a complete blood test, checking how your kidneys are functioning, checking how your liver is functioning, as well as your cholesterol levels. Based on that, you may be advised of for either plant protein or animal-based protein. Now, plant protein is anything that's derived from plants, 100% vegan most of the times. And animal proteins are either whey protein, casein, things like that. Now, most of the bodybuilders, they end up choosing animal-based protein because the absorption rate in our body of animal protein is higher than plant protein. In terms of protein content, there are and the animal-based protein had higher protein content per scoop when compared to plant proteins. However, there's like a lot of misinformation in the air that having plant animal-based protein raises your cholesterol levels and all of that. It doesn't really do that. But if you're having an over amount of animal-based protein and having animal protein at home, that is something that may raise your cholesterol levels as well. So again, it sort of depends on your body type. It depends on what health issues you have. Depends on your dietary preferences, that which protein might suit you. For women, for women, plant-based protein, pea protein is specifically found to be more beneficial, especially for all the hormone balance. For men, honestly, lucky for them that they don't have any such thing that they're supposed to only have this specific protein. But for women, especially with PCOS, menopause, loss of periods or amenorrhea, it's better to have plant-based protein than animal-based protein. And brand, in terms of brand, again, it depends based on what you want to have. I wouldn't recommend a brand on this level, but maybe if you want to come and talk later on after this, you could probably get in touch and we could discuss more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I see another question from Alex, most probably the last question for the session today. Samya he's asking you to shed some light on gluten content in rice flour and wheat flour, and should we avoid gluten as much as possible?
Good question, Alex. I'll answer the second part first. Should we avoid gluten? Not at all. Men in specific don't need to avoid gluten. I personally feel that avoiding gluten just because of a fad in the market or because you're getting these posh things in the market like gluten-free desserts and rotis, that you go completely gluten-free, I feel like you're losing out on a lot when you're going gluten-free, especially coming to fiber content as well as protein. My suggestion would be you don't have to go gluten-free until and unless you're gluten intolerant or you have celiac disease. Women, on the other hand, with PCOS, it's some women react to gluten. Now, react to gluten, I don't mean the same with men. Whenever I say react to gluten, I don't mean an anaphylactic reaction. Reactions to gluten can be very minimal, like burping a lot, bloating, excessive farts, issues with your poop, like diarrhea or constipation when you have too much protein. So keep an eye for these signs. Maybe see a dietitian. She can help you. She or he can help you understand if it is actually gluten causing it. But without a confirmation or an absolute need, don't go off gluten. In terms of rice flour, wheat flour, so gluten is nothing but a protein that is found in barley, wheat, rye, and oats. Not rice, but rye and oats. So these are the only things. The way how I remember it is BROW, brow. So barley, rice, oats, and wheat. Oats also up to an extent. In India, we say that the oats are gluten free, but up to based on certain guidelines that are put down internationally, even if it has 1% of gluten, not 0.001% of gluten, if oats has that, then it still has gluten and it can't be considered as gluten free. So you get gluten free oats in the market. So the reason why rice flour is gluten free is because it doesn't really have gluten in it, but wheat flour does have gluten in it. So I hope that answered your question.
I think so.
Great.
I could derive some answer from that. So yeah, yeah, he says absolutely. So validation.
Perfect.
So I think one last question, Soumya.
I
I'm
saw
sorry
one
to.
question on the top on pink salt. I think some 3-4 people have asked that. Is pink salt better? Should I answer that, or do you have a better?
Yeah. No. Please go ahead.
Okay. The reason why I wanted to answer that is because I think that's something that I'm really passionate about these days, because I like to tell people that your pink salt is not that good. And I'll tell you why. So a lot of us assume that pink salt's the best because of its color, because of its uniqueness, and because it's priced higher than regular salt in the market. But in 2019, Australian researchers had put out national and international guidelines where they did an analysis of about 58 samples of pink salt from all over the world. They found that there were over 50 plus metals that were found, metals or I would say contaminants found in pink salt. Out of that, there were 20 plus metals that are actually toxic to us in small amounts over the period of time. So pink salt is not available in its purest form. Pink salt, yes, it has some amount of iodine in it, but it is not iodized. It is not enough for us. Now, the reason why I'm saying iodine is not enough for us, it's because our thyroid gland requires iodine on a daily basis to function and to pump out its daily activities, which is releasing the thyroid hormone that regulates our metabolism. Now, when you don't have enough of iodine on a daily basis, your thyroid ends up malfunctioning. When that happens, you end up getting thyroid issues like hypo or hypothyroid. So the government, as a role to prevent thyroid, to prevent goiter, it had actually been started in Africa, to prevent all of that, had come up with this idea to iodize salt. So that's how we get our salt. We get iodine in small quantities and required quantities on a daily basis through salt, because salt is something we have in small quantities. So pink salt is a big no-no because it has certain contaminants in them that is potentially harmful to us. Even though pink salt is 98% sodium chloride and 2% of these other contaminants, over a long period of time, they aren't excreted properly from our body. So it ends up getting accumulated and lodged somewhere in our kidney, and then it leads to a kidney stone, somewhere in our gallbladder, leads to a gallstone. So it's better off, pink salt better off avoided. And instead of jumping for any light salt or any other form of salt, just stick to your basic iodized salt. 1 teaspoon a day of salt is recommended as an added thing per person. So try not exceeding that.
That's a great insight, Soumya. Thank you so much for that. Whenever I see particularly pink salt, I always get tempted to buy one because somebody told me it tastes better than your normal iodized salt. So
The thing that happens with pink salt is we end up adding more because we feel it's not strong enough. So that way you're increasing the sodium chloride that's actually going in your body.
oh, one last question.
Yeah.
I won't ask you to stay beyond this.
Yeah.
Is there are a lot of food products that you get which doesn't have a nutrition label on the package. Of course, like a sweet, you go to
Yeah.
a sweet shop, you buy something, there's no nutrition label.
Yes.
So how do you stay away from those? How do you not buy, and how do you sort of, even if you're buying, how do you know whether they're
Yeah.
good or bad?
So, firstly, don't go inside a sweet shop. No, I'm kidding. Go into a sweet shop. But what I usually do when I'm going to a place and I know that there's not going to be a nutrition label or the calories or protein content, especially when you're going out to eat a meal, is I look up the menu beforehand. When it comes to sweet, I sort of already decide, okay, what I want to have. I want motichur laddu from Dadu's in Hyderabad, so I'm going to probably go and get that. But I start looking up different places. Look online for like literally just Google one motichur laddu calories, and you'll find multiple options. Now, don't go with one option, but average the calories that's found in all those options and consider that to be gold standard. When you're going out to eat, there are different guidelines that you're supposed to follow when you're going out to eat. But my suggestion would be before you go anywhere, always look up the menu and decide what you want to eat. If you're on a diet, probably stick to something that's high protein. You don't always have to go eat the salad. You're not a cow. But when you're going out, you can have chicken with a side of veggies. You can have a chicken sandwich with a side of veggies. But always have a side of veggies for the table. So you are eating healthy as well, but you're still enjoying your meal. For sweets, because it's something that you're doing once in a while and not on an everyday basis, I would say it's okay to not really look at a nutrition label or get so hung up on what's been put over there because it's once in a while. If it's something you're doing on a regular basis, that's when you start getting more aware, start Googling. I know Google is probably the last thing I should be advising people to do, but you can Google the content of certain products. That's completely fine. But don't go Googling your symptoms if you're not well at all.
Understood. You shouldn't have said motichur laddu from Dadu's.
Yeah.
So, Soumya, thank you again for being a part of this wonderful session. Thanks for bringing in so much information, making us wiser in the last 90 minutes. Very, very thankful to you. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the audience that we've had today. Really patient, asked us wonderful questions, and they've been throughout the session. And also, thank you for the wonderful feedback you've given us. I think this marks the end of the session today. We are coming up with another beautiful session next week on the occasion of the World Health Day. We are doing a session on animal flow, which is a new form of wellness art that we are bringing to all of you. So look forward to the next session. Thank you so much, Soumya. You have a great day, and all here in the participants.
Thanks everyone for being such a wonderful audience. And I think you guys were really interactive and keeping the whole thing going. Didn't make it feel like it was an online webinar. Really felt like you guys were around. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Lovely. Great. Thanks, Shiva. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.